What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? How we do? Oh, wow. I am peaking a lot. This, what day is it? Oh, yeah. It is Friday, November 7th. My name is Everett DeLorme, and this is the Volleyball Journal. I won't lie to you guys. This is a bit of a rush show today. This is a bit of a last minute put together of all the things that I've watched in volleyball over the past few days. I've watched a lot of volleyball, but I just didn't prep in the normal way that I would for this show. Mostly because I've been editing a video all day. If you're a fan of the Lega Volley Femminile, I just posted it. It's the top 6 Americans from the Lega Volley Femminile so far this season. So I'd appreciate it if you like, or if you go check it out. If you like it, leave a comment. If you don't like it, also leave a comment. All right? Would appreciate it if you would do that. I would ideally like to be able to post one video a week, like one edited video a week, plus these 2 shows. Maybe pop in a bit of an interview a week or every other week in there as well. But we're working towards it. Okay. It was a bit of an off week so far in volleyball. Not that many games going on for a number of reasons, but that doesn't mean that the games that were being played weren't important. It seemed that all of the games that I was watching, I was really interested in. So I'm excited to kind of get into it. It will be a little bit more off the cuff and maybe a little less prepared, just because I have been literally editing all day. I have like half a sandwich here beside me that I haven't even eaten yet. And then, I'm going to go take a bit of a nap because I'm going to go party tonight, right? My friend's band is going on at 11:30 later on this evening at Jom Taberna. If you're from Toronto, then you know one of the best spots. Actually, I feel as though a lot of my viewers internationally would like going to Drom Taberna because it is a very Serbian, Bosnian, Balkan, Polish, Czechia influenced type of place. And it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun to go dancing, listen to some live bands. But we're not here to talk about live bands. I'm here to talk about volleyball. Some of the things we're going to talk about this week. Lublin winning the Super Cup in Poland. Also some other great results in Poland. Resovia with a really big 3-dong yesterday over Warszawa. We'll jump into that one quite a bit. Also, a really good week for Olsztyn. Olsztyn going 2-0 this week with wins over Lviv and Gdansk. We'll jump into that a little bit. Over in Italy, we also had the rematch of the Supercoppa between Conegliano and Milano this week. And now that was actually a week 4 makeup from that very same week. A bit of smart scheduling there from the Lega Volley Femminile. And then we'll also preview a little bit of the Lega Volley matchups for this week. And then, of course, we've also got some Champions League action. We've got the Champions League going down with some second round matchups this week. So we're gonna dive into it just a little bit. Did I watch any of them? No, I did not. But we're gonna talk about the stats and everything else. So if you're listening to this later, welcome. If you're watching now, welcome. And let's just jump into it. So first and foremost, as I mentioned, have to talk about Lublin. That's it. Bogdanka Lublin is the 2025 Super Cup champions as they were taking on JSW, Jastrzębski Węgiel, in the Cup final. There wasn't any semifinals. It was just the straight up final. So it was the Cup champions from last season taking on the league winners from last season. And I mean, if you've been paying attention to the league at all this year, I don't think you're at all surprised to know that Lublin won this one 3-1. It was, I'm not going to say it as a domination. Actually, I think it was a pretty good game, but Lublin just looked way better than JSW. They took it 28-26. JSW won the second 27-25, and then it was 25-16, 27-25 in favor of Lublin in this one. And the big thing for me is that Wilfredo Leon was absolutely dominant. He was the big man out there just crushing it. He had 27 points in this match. He was 22 for 36 with a 52% efficiency. He had 1 block and also 4 aces and no errors. He was absolutely crushing the ball from the baseline. And I mean, his all-around game was good. He was also passing 50% positive on 22 targets. So Leon looked absolutely fantastic. And you know what? When he's playing that way, you just have a supporting cast from the guys around him on Lublin. And that's kind of exactly what we saw on, what was it? It was Wednesday. Yeah, it was Wednesday. Kevin Sasak was also out there. He had 16 points, going 13 for 27 with a not bad match at all. Alex Grozanov was a monster in the middle. He went 7 for 10 in attacking with also 4 blocks. We actually got a full Hiller Hino game as well. He had 11 points, and he was second in break points for Lublin with 5. For the newbies out there, break points are steals. Break points are when, your team is stealing, you're able to get it back with, you're able to get another point, with, either an ace or a block, or maybe the ball has come back. But overall, to me, it was just domination by Lublin. They hit 52% as a team with a 45% efficiency. And JSW, they're having a hard time scoring. They were only 45% as a team with a 31% efficiency. On one side of the net, you have Lublin kind of on the way up, and on the other side, you have JSW on the way down in Lublin. I mean, they dominated at the net 14-2 in blocks in this match, but also from the baseline. 9 aces and 17 errors for Lublin, and 4 aces and 20 errors for JSW. So just a bit of a mismatch in the serve block game. Lublin's offense was absolutely cooking all throughout. We actually got to see Daniel Ngima, Kofi, for the first time this year. He came in for Finn McCarthy in the third set. Finn was having an all right game. He did finish that first set with an ace, but then just wasn't getting that much volume. So they went to Kofi, and Kofi looked pretty good. He looked pretty good. He was 2 for 2 in attack, also had a block and an ace. They originally called that ace out. Did a bit of a review, my boy. Put it in. You love to see it. And, I'll just give them a shout out right now. The 3 Canadian boys, Danon, Kofi, Jackson Young, Finn McCarthy, all with their cups. You got to love to see it. You love to see the Canadian boys doing well overseas. And, these boys have been doing some good things for Lublin this year. So I'm excited to see how things can continue for this Lublin team this season. They're looking real good. And it's crazy to think about how last year, I was very impressed by how this Lublin team played throughout the year. But even heading into the playoffs, I was always saying that this team just looks like they're a little bit away. That they don't have the horses to run with, the Yashemsi Vengels and the Varshavas and the Zavierchis. And, they may have gotten a little bit lucky last year with some injuries happening in the playoffs. And, there was definitely some discussion about that, but still they ended up winning the PlusLiga. But this year, and they really didn't make that many changes to the roster. In so many ways, you lost guys and you're replacing them, with the younger guys like Hiller and Jackson Young. And this team just looks not undefeatable, not unbeatable by any means, but they just look really, really good. They're well-oiled machines. They play really, really well together, and they just play a really fun style of volleyball. Commenda sets a fantastic offense. I'm not going to say this, but people in the Discord are saying that it's really nice to see Commenda without the shackles of a certain Serbian coach for the national team. And I will say that the offense that we see right now with Lublin does look a little bit different and a little bit, it just looks like a little cleaner, a little bit more fun than what we saw this summer for Poland. On the JW side of things, it's kind of been the same old story. Sherzhin and the middles were both good. Kaczmarek and Gierzo were just not. Sherzhin, he's really been having a really good year. The former Ohio State Buckeye, the man of many nations, if you will, having a bit of a breakout season really putting up some good numbers and kind of carrying JSW so far. He had 22 points in this one, went 24-34 with a 47% efficiency, had one block and an ace. And now he also had a match high 13 digs. And now JSW did outdig Lublin 58-39, which is kind of what kept them going in this one. But on the other side, on the left side, Girzo continues to just struggle. He was 4 for 11 and also had a 33% passing on only 6 targets and also got aced. And normally I'd be saying, why aren't they bringing in Kujundžić? But once they did bring in Kujundžić, he just wasn't that much better, right? Miran Kujundžić was 6 for 25 with a 12% efficiency. Not fantastic. He just didn't look sharp out there. He didn't look great, but he did pass a 55% positive on 11 targets. And then still, for me, the big issue for this JSW team is the lackluster play from Kaczmarek on the right side. This is a guy who scored 500 points last year, and I know that there's so much discussion about him, but this is a guy who can put away a ball. This is a guy who can put away a ball maybe a little bit differently, and he does so many other things, but we're just not seeing that as much from Kaczmarek again this season, and he's 14 for 37 with an 18% efficiency. His numbers are way down for JSW, and it's just not been great. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure what we're going to see from this JSW team as the season progresses. I continue to see them that they have... I'm not going to say that they have like a setting controversy, but maybe Toniutti isn't necessarily the guy. Maybe you want to start going to Josh Chuaniga a little bit more. I don't know. I just don't know what to do for this JSW team. They're a team that, is used to having some of the best players in the game. They had Fornal last year, and Timente Carl was on this team. Just a different look altogether. Mr. Lambo in the chat. They did start on fire last year. I will give you that. But after I think they won like their first 9, 10, 11 games, they very much evened out. Like after that run of games, they basically evened out to basically like beating the teams below them and then not being able to beat the teams ahead of them. They would struggle against the JSWs. They would struggle against Zawiercie, Warszawa, Resovia, I think, towards the end, and Zaksa as well. And remember, like Zaksa won game 1 of that quarterfinal last year against Lublin. And if Kurek doesn't get injured, right? If Kurek doesn't get injured for game 2 at home for Zaksa, what does that do, right? Does Zaksa win that game 2, and do they move on? Do we not have any of this narrative? Because they did lose Savitsky and they lost Benny Twinstra, who were both the P2s last year. Now Twinstra moved on. I forget where he's playing. I think he's playing in Turkey this year, whereas Savitsky is going through the doping scandals at the moment. So I don't really want to touch on that. And then Mr. Lambo again in the chat. Remember when he was at Zaksa with Kamil and Slivka, and we thought they were the most amazing trio. Once again, referring to Kaczmarek. And yeah, I do. Those Zaksa days where they won 3 Champions Leagues in a row, when they had Kamil Semeniuk and Slivka and Kaczmarek. Janusz was setting them, David Smith, Eric Shoji. It was just a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And I really liked the way, like, I've been a huge defender of Kaczmarek for a long time. I really like the way he plays the game. He's definitely an all-around player, and that's, to me, is because of his beach background. Like, he's a guy that knows how to play. Like, he knows how to block. He knows how to play defense. He can set out of system. But this year, it just hasn't really been it. There's been something missing out there for Lukasz Kaczmarek, and it's tough to see as someone who has supported him. But I guess that's what you get sometimes, right? In sport and in volleyball. All right, moving on now to some of the other matches that happened this week. Yesterday, we had a very interesting matchup between Resovia and Warszawa. Now, Warszawa was at home. They were 3-0, so to going into this match, 9-0 in sets, had yet to lose a set. Tommi Tillikainen, the first-year head coach out of Finland, who coached in Korea last year, was looking good. And man, Resovia did not look good yesterday as Resovia comes into their home and kind of bullies them a bit. And not to mention, like, you have guys like Arthur Shalpuk, who was on that Resovia team last year. Arthur Shalpuk was on the Warszawa team last year and then moved over to Resovia. Bartosz Bednosz was on the Resovia team, moved to Warszawa. So there's a lot of team dynamics in this one. But the big thing that stuck out to me was the differences in the offense. Janusz was absolutely in his bag. He was absolutely cooking, and it wasn't even that good of a Karol Butryn day, but it was a fantastic Arthur Shalpuk day. He had a nice little ceremony before the match. He had 16 points in his return to the capital. He went 14 for 25 with a 44% efficiency and 2 blocks. But to me, like, the offenses were the big things, right? Janusz was absolutely in his bag. As I said, his team hit a 54% positive with a 37% efficiency. Not sky high, but still pretty good, mostly due to the iffy numbers from Butryn on the right side, whereas Warszawa really struggled to score. They hit a 43% as a team with only a 26% efficiency. And for Warszawa, it was really due to a really bad Linus Weber day, which sucks. And I've been a really big fan of Linus Weber, especially after last year as he was coming off the bench for this Warszawa team behind Bolanj. And this year he's been fantastic, but yesterday he was not. He went to 5 for 11 with only a 9% efficiency and then got subbed out for Gomułka in the third. And Gomułka went 3 for 6, but they clearly didn't trust him that much to give him that much volume at any point in the game. Also, Kevin Tilley, who was, I think, MVP of the last match for Warszawa, did have 10 points, but he was 6 for 20 with a 5% efficiency. He also had 2 blocks and 2 aces on that one. So Warszawa in general just struggling to score. And as Mr. Lambo is pointing out in the chat, both Butryn and Chebul hit in the negative, and they still got the sweep. But there was a few different guys who stepped up. First and foremost, Danny Demyanenko. He was outstanding. He was 10 for 13 in attacking. At one point, he was 6 for 6 in attacking. He had no errors, didn't get blocked at all. And most importantly, late in the third set, as Resovia was making a late game push, right? The first set was very interesting because it was all Resovia. They had a massive lead. I think it was like 16-7 at one point, and then it ended up being 25-23 in favor of Resovia as, Warszawa, it's 25-22, as Warszawa had clawed their way back. The second set was mostly Resovia. They just kind of kept going. And then in the third, it looked like Warszawa was going to get a little bit of momentum and get things going. And then right at the end of the set, Resovia made a few plays, and there was kind of like I think 3 of the 4 sets went to Danny Demyanenko, and he absolutely crushed them, put them on top. And that offense for Resovia was absolutely cooking. They brought in Jakubutski, the 37-year-old, not legend, but, all-timer to hold it down on the right side. He could put up some good points. And then Lukasz Vashina, I was even saying, because I did do a watch-along on Twitch for this one, I was even saying that I really like the way that Lukasz Vashina plays. Last year, he was if not the best receiver in the PlusLiga. And I think what he did for Czechia this year was really built his confidence as well offensively. Last year he wasn't known too much as an offensive guy, and then this one he came in and did a really good job. He was 7 for 13, hitting a 46% efficiency. He also was 75% positive on 4 targets. I really just like the way he plays, and as I've said before, I really like the depth of this Resovia left side crew, right? Like Chebul, Shalpuk, Vashina, Luetzi. Outstanding. Just outstanding all the way around. And Mr. Lambo, once again in the chat, Janusz was able to get Demyanenko the ball from anywhere to close out the third set. And I talked about it yesterday in my watch-along too. Danny Demyanenko was a player that I've watched since he was literally a teenager. coached against him. I played against him. I played against him in high school ball when he was playing for St. Mike's. And, in those high school games, I remember Andrew Coker's setter being like in the back corner in one and being able to turn and fire that ball to Demyanenko all the way to the net on like an inside gap and still be able to score. And I remember doing stats against him when he was playing for Crush in 18U. And now real Canadian ones will know that 2012 Crush team was the best club team of all time. Stephen Marr, Danny Demyanenko, a bunch of other absolute studs. They wiped the floor with the top SoCal teams and the top California teams that year, and they didn't lose a match ever. They didn't lose any matches all year. We were one of the few teams my Mavericks team was one of the few teams to take a set off of them, and they were absolutely outstanding. I'm pretty sure it's the same year that like Ben Patch was playing in club, and they absolutely wiped the floor with Ben Patch. But I remember doing shot charts for Danny Demyanenko, and it was like a rainbow, right? Anywhere, if you were sitting on like a 51, they hit a 61, and they hit like a 31 as well. And everywhere he was able to hit is just an absolute rainbow. Also, part of it is because Demyanenko is a former swimmer. If I'm not mistaken, his mother was an Olympic swimmer. But Demyanenko did swim competitively throughout high school, like went to OFSAs and stuff like that. And so his shoulders are so mobile that he can really open up and just unleash on the ball. And like we were seeing that because there was times where he was hitting like straight. He was approaching to the gap in the 31. He was able to hit straight down beside him. And then other times, once that block was on him, he would cut it off and hit hard cross court. So, I mean, enough talking about Danny here. I love to gush about my Canadian guys, but that Resovia offense looks really good. People also talking about Shoji, who we have not seen the past couple days. I did reach out to him. He said that he's fine, just working through some things, and he'll be all right. So, as always, we give a big shout out to our guy Eric Shoji. But yeah, Resovia currently sitting in first place in the PlusLiga. Them and Lublin are the two remaining undefeated teams in the league so far, or not so far. They're the only two undefeated teams in the league right now. Also, wanted to just touch on this man right here, Moritz Karlitzek and Olsztyn. Olsztyn got a nice 3-1 win over Lviv on Tuesday, and then followed that up yesterday with another 3-1 win over Gdansk. And now the win over Lviv, everyone could have expected that. I think this Olsztyn team is really, really good, especially with Hannes Thiele at the helm setting this offense. But Karlitzek had 18, Pavel Halaba had 16, then Jan Hadrava also added 14. I think Arthur Schwartz must be injured or something, because we haven't really seen him all that much this year, and we didn't even see him on the roster yesterday against Gdansk. One thing I do before I talked about the Gdansk match, on the Lviv side of things, Lorenzo Pope has quietly been putting together a really good season for the Ukrainian side. He had 22 points in this one to lead Lviv. He was 18 for 26, hitting a 69% with a 53% efficiency. Also had 4 blocks in this one. So I know Pope got a little injured after his time at Modena. Had to go back to Australia to rehab some things, and but did a really good job coming in. And I think he's really been putting together a nice little season so far this year. But on Thursday, so 2 really quick back-to-back games for Olsztyn. Karlitzek came up huge again with a 22 performance. Offensively, he wasn't fantastic. I won't lie, he was 15 for 34 with only a 17% efficiency, but he did have 7 aces, including 3 in a row to start off. I believe it was, the second set. Gdansk won the first 25-21, then it was 25-23, 25-21, 25-21 in favor of Olsztyn. And as I said, no Arthur Schwartz even on the roster for this one, interestingly enough, but Hadrava had 16. And on the Gdansk side of things, their left sides were just really struggling to score. No Peter Orchuk, which was a little interesting. I'm not entirely sure if he's injured or what's going on there. But Tobias Brand, who was the guy for them in the last match, struggled to score in this one. He was 12 for 34 with a 17% efficiency. And then Damian Kogut, who was brought in to play the P2 role, only 4 points. He was 4 for 11 with an 18% efficiency. So even though Alexei Nasevich had a decent match with 17 points, he was 14 for 32 with a 34% efficiency, and they had 10 blocks as a team. Gdansk just unable to get past. And, you know, had you told me at the beginning of the season that Gdansk would have been better than, or sorry, that Olsztyn would have been better than Gdansk, I wouldn't have believed it. But Tila really has that offense doing some good things. And once they get rid of Hadrava, right? Although he did do not bad. He had 16 points once again in this one. But I do think that Arthur just has like a little bit more to give. Although Hadrava also tied for the game high in digs with 10. So maybe you got like two different opposites out there at Olsztyn. But I think this Olsztyn team is looking really, really good. And, you know, I really think that I think they could definitely make the playoffs, especially when you see like what Skra has been pulling together, and Zaksa has been a little bit iffy. Norwich and Stahova is still kind of struggling. JSW, kind of like, who knows? I think they got really lucky to beat Olsztyn in the first match of the season. I thought Olsztyn was going to be able to win that one 3-1, but their offense just kind of fizzled out towards the end. So, yeah, like I think this Olsztyn team is really, really good. And Peter, you're right. I think Hadrava is one of the best defenders in the league. So that, like, there was even a point, you know, where I was writing in the Discord where Hadrava like ran back and chased down a ball like way behind the baseline, and I was like, I love Arthur, but there's no way he's making that play defensively, none whatsoever. So once they can get Arthur back, hopefully he's healthy, and find a little bit of that that balance between the two of them, I think this Olsztyn team can be very, very difficult. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we saw them finish like 5th or 6th, right? So that is just me on that one. Now, looking at the standings here in the PlusLiga so far this season, you'll see that Resovia Rzeszów at number 1 there. They're 4-0 with 11 points. And then you got Warszawa, Zawiercie, and Olsztyn all sitting at 3-1. Lublin, only having played 3 matches right now, is still 3-0. After that, you got Skra at 2-1, Gdansk at 2-2, JSW at 2-1, and then down to the bottom, Zaksa, Norwid, Gorzów, Suwałki, all without wins. And if you go back to my season preview I did with Adanos, we thought that both like Zaksa, Norwid, and Kuprum all could be playoff teams. So the fact that all 3 of those teams are struggling right now is a little bit surprising. Kuprum, I mean, they just can't get some things together. Chizoba just isn't having the offensive season that we were expecting him to. Norwid is having some left side problems with Lipinski and Batapor. And then Zaksa, I mean, I think I talked about it a little bit in my last episode, just also struggling. I mean, they were up, I think it was 3-1 or 2-1 on Skra the other day. The Allen-less Skra, like Skra isn't even at full health yet. They didn't even have their biggest signing from this year in Allen, the Brazilian opposite, and still took down Zaksa 3-2. So going to be very interesting to watch all 3 of those teams. Suwałki kind of looking like maybe they're in the relegation race. All right. Now moving on from Poland to Italy. There's only really one game to talk about in Italy, and it was the rematch of the Super Cup that we saw earlier this year when Milano beat Conegliano in 5, and it was the first time since 2018 that Conegliano lost any type of Italian competition. And There was a little bit of hype heading into this one. Could they do it again? Could they do it some more? But unfortunately, it was all Conegliano in this one. Well, not all Conegliano, but they were definitely in the driver's seat. They took the first at 25-17. The second went to Milano 25-23. Then it was 25-23, 25-21 in favor of Immoco Conegliano to get the 3-1 win and stay atop of the standings. They're still undefeated in league play, and a big reason of that has been the play of Isabel Hawk. In my opinion, she has undoubtedly been the MVP so far this season, and this one was no different. She had 26 points, was 22 for 45 with a block and 3 aces. She has absolutely just been destroying the ball, just been absolutely crushing the ball this entire year. I do think that is partly in change because they went to the Molten, right? They switched balls to the Molten, and that has made a big difference for this Conegliano team. But any way you look at it, Conegliano still the number 1 team in the world. Gabi had a really good match as well. She started off the year pretty weak and pretty slow, but ever since that Super Cup loss, I think she's gotten a lot better. And she was really good in this one too. 19 points. She was 16 for 34. And then Fatoumata Sylla off the bench, 10 points, was 8 for 11 in attack, and I'm still really excited to see what Sylla can do. Dalderop started the match. She was only 2 for 13, got aced 4 times. And you know what? Simok is saying in the chat, like, definitely an improvement from last year in terms of mentality from Milano. And yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily an improvement, because I think this team has a lot of things to work through. Like, there's been a lot of turnover on this team. You know, gone is Miriam Sylla, gone is Alicia Oro. I think that why am I blanking on this? Sorry, Bosio has been. She's been decent. I actually think that Bosio's done a pretty good job. No Hanna Kurtadic in this one, which I think would have made a big difference for Milano. She's undoubtedly she is the best blocker in the league. She's leading the league in blocks. But for me, Kalia Lanier has made a real big difference for this roster. She's hitting the ball fairly efficiently. She had 18 points in this one, but she's also been passing really well. Like, she got targeted 30 times in this match and was passing 60% positive and 50% perfect, right? So when you're putting that type of serve receive in and you're keeping your setter in system, you're going to give your team a chance. And especially when you have Paolo Gonu, it really opens things up. So once they can get Kurtic back healthy, then that's going to be a big difference. But the big thing for me is the hole that we see on the left side for Milano. And now when we go back to that Super Cup match, it was the bringing in of Emma Kanyan who really kind of changed the tides. And in this one, they kept on going with Pietrini. Pietrini was all right. 3 for 13 offensively, so not good on offense, decent in passing. On 21 targets, she passed 48% positive. And then they ended up bringing in Rebecca Piva, who I thought Piva was really solid in this one. Passing wise, she was good. On 16 targets, she was 75% positive, 50% perfect. And then it also was 4 for 9 in attack. But at that point, you know, it was really just, you could tell that Conegliano had a bit of momentum, and Milano wasn't really able to stop it all that much. They fought hard, but it's just like they fall behind early. And then once Conegliano has the lead, it's really hard to push them off their game. And especially Milano needs to be one of the best blocking teams in the league. And that's really centered around the play by Hanna Kurtadic. And when she's not playing, it just takes away a huge piece of their game, an absolutely huge piece of the game. And Lanier for Dalderop was one of the greatest exchanges of the history of time. I mean, let's remember that Dalderop was really good at the beginning of the season last year. Really good when Agonu was out. But yeah, she's kind of fallen off. And I mean, we didn't really get to see her that much for Netherlands this year. And yeah, I don't know. I've always been a big Nika Dalderop fan, but haven't really seen it in a while and didn't really see it in this match either. But Conegliano just continues to dominate. They're still the best team in the world. I don't think there's any doubt about that. We'll see how they look once they get Zhu Ting back from the Chinese national games. But I'm also very intrigued by this Milano team. I think this Milano team has a lot to offer. I think the pairing of Forsino and Juliette Gillin is very interesting. I think those are two fantastic liberos. And then I think Piva can be that player. If Piva can come in and put up some good numbers offensively and try to open some things up, because down the middle, like Danesi is all right offensively. Kurtajic actually isn't great offensively, but she's good at blocking. Danesi is a pretty good blocker too. So if they are able to get some blocks, get some aces, you can bully teams from the baseline, especially when Agonu's back there. And if Lania keeps on playing the way that she does, I think this Milano team has a chance, right? I think they definitely do. Now, looking forward to this weekend in the Lega Volley Femminile. Not much on the docket. That's really exciting. Probably won't be watching it all that much. On Saturday, we have Chieri against Macerata, and then Scandici taking on Bergamo. Bergamo has had a tough start to the season. They've only actually won 3 matches in 2025. They had a really good start to the 2024-25 season in the first half of the year, and then have really fallen off that year. And Sese, who was the top scoring left side in the league last year, has really struggled to score, but Ken Lukip has done a pretty good job. Then moving on to Sunday, Conegliano will be taking on Valafolia. Monviso will be taking on Busto. That one might be a little bit interesting. Perugia are going to be taking on Novara. Novara now without... Novara is going to be without Amber Agility, who, in my opinion, she's been their best player all year. She's been their top scorer, which is absolutely ridiculous to think from a middle. And now she's going back to League One because Indy Bayerns is healthy once again. And no offense to Bayerns, but that is a huge drop off for Novara. And I honestly think that Amber Agility has been their best player this year, and that's saying a lot for a team with like Britt Herbots and Lena Alsmeyer, who's been lights out and passing, and Mayu Ishikawa. But that's kind of been the case for me. Like, I think Amber Agility has been one of the biggest impact players in the Lega Volley Femminile in the first third of this season. So we'll have to see how they do without her. And then the final 2 matches, you got Milano taking on Cuneo. Cuneo has been up and down all around, all over the place this year, beaten Scandici and then losing to some like other teams. And then Firenze will be taking on Consolini, who also got their first win last week. All right. Actually, when is that going to be? Looks like there's some matches on Wednesday as well next week. So I'll talk about those in the next one. Now, real quick, we're just going to touch on the Lega Volley really, really quick. And what this week, we only had the one match, or we had no midweek matches because it was supposed to be the week of the Super Cup. Of course, everything's been going on where the Saudis couldn't get the Super Cup scheduled, and they scheduled it for now, which is right at the time of the Islamic Games. And now it's being scheduled for Christmas. And of course, the players aren't happy. The Super Cup is supposed to be a preseason tournament, and now it's going to be literally played in the middle of the season. I don't know why they're trying to sell it to the Saudis anyways. But yeah, that sucks. Now, if you look at the schedule for this week, I think there's not really that many big games going down. On Saturday, we have Trentino taking on Cuneo. And then on Sunday, we have Piacenza versus Perugia, Modena versus Padova, Monza versus Cisterna. And then Milano and Grotta Tonnina are going to be playing on the 19th. So in like 10 days, like in a week and a half. But on Sunday, we do have the much anticipated matchup between Trentino and Verona going down at noon Eastern time. That'll be 6 p.m. European time. And this is a matchup that, I am excited for. Now, I was very suspect, let's say, of this Verona team before the season started. I wasn't entirely sure if this was a team that, really went out there and made some of the best moves this season. I thought they brought in Micah Christensen when Abayev had set the team to the second best offense in the league last year. They brought in Darlene Souza. What did I say? Did I say something else? Yeah, Lube is going to be taking on Verona on Sunday. So I apologize if I said something else. But nonetheless, they brought in Darlin Souza after Nomori Keita had put up all-time numbers as an opposite last year, statistically the second best season of all time offensively, and the other one was a shortened season for Nomori Keita back in 1920 because of COVID. So there's a lot of questions on like how well he would have done in the long term in that one. Oh, I said Trentino. I apologize. That already happened. Verona wiped the floor with them. So I really think I'm really excited for this one because there's a lot of things. You have the two best serving teams in the league, right? There's no doubt about that. Like when you look at Lube's side of Nikolov and Botolo and Lepke, Bonifante is a good server. Gargiulo as well has a bit of a tricky float sometimes. And then on the Verona side with Keita and Darlin and Mozic, and Marco Vitelli sometimes you can randomly pop off. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how both of these teams run. And then you've got really dynamic, fast offenses. Like these are the two fastest offenses in the league that love playing it fast out to the outside, and then love running it through the pipe as well. I do give a bit of a advantage to Lube in certain areas like blocking and general defense because you've got Balasso against D'Amico, but in the setting department, you have to give it to Micah Christensen and Verona up compared to just the second year of Mattia Bonifante and Lube. And then, of course, you've got the outsides too, like Botolo and Nikolov. It's hard to argue that those guys aren't at the top of their game right now, especially what we saw from them in the World Championships earlier this year. But then Mozic and Keita have both been outstanding. Darlin has been a little bit hit or miss this year. We've seen him subbed out a number of times for Francesco Sani, but in the last match against Trentino, I thought he was fantastic. And then Eric Lepke on the right side as well. Like Lube plays a little bit more dynamic with that 3 outside hitter system, whereas Verona plays a little bit more straight up, but they do bring Darlin back into serve receive quite a bit. So these are two teams who maybe aren't great in reception, and they both feasted on Trentino, who weren't fantastic in serve either. And then we're able to really put them off the game. So I'm expecting this one to be very, very interesting. Like you have two of the greatest showmen in the game right now with Nomori Keita and Alex Nikolov. Just two young guys who love to swing and swing hard. So I'm really, really excited because the matchups in this one are going to be a lot of fun. Ultimately, I think it's going to be Lube. I think Lube is going to be able to win this one in 5. I just think that they have a little bit more of a veteran presence, and I think that Balasso will really be a game changer because especially now with those new rules, and you'll see it a lot, watch for it on Sunday. And I mean, watch for it with any team, really. Trentino as well, too. Whereas soon as if your back row left side is passing in 6, as soon as that ball is tossed, they're switching with the libero, and the libero is passing in 6. And that's usually to kind of hide that back row left side to be able to release him early to be able to hit the pipe. So, I also think that this is going to be the final test, CMUC for Lube or Verona. Now, I will say my level for Verona is still how well they can do in the long term, how well they can do kind of looking into the playoffs. And I'm still not entirely sure how that's going to look. We're going to have to see kind of the entirety of the season for that. But still, looking pretty good so far. That offense is really cooking. It's a lot of fun to watch. And yeah, I'm also going to be doing a live watch along for this match. I've been doing them all on Twitch, and I think I'm going to try to do them on both Twitch and YouTube for this match, just because it's a really big match, and I feel like a lot of people are going to want to join the watch along. So I will be doing a lot more of my watch alongs on Twitch, just because, especially if it's not a lesser game, but like something else going on. I think it's just a little bit easier to do it on Twitch. People seem to be a little bit more relaxed on there, but this one's going to be a big one, and I'm sure some people are going to want some decent commentary and conversation for this match. But yeah, this is going to be the big test for Verona. A lot of people are saying that Lube will smack Verona, although the first comment on this video was Verona in 4. So I think this is going to be the big match of the weekend to watch. Okay. really quick here, just to wrap some things up. I think there is a way to stream the match to both. Not the match, not streaming the match. Don't worry, Volleyball World. Don't get your panties in a tizzy. But I do think that. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought there. It's been a long day. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to stream it to both. But I think I'm going to do most of my streams on Twitch and then some of them on YouTube as well. But this is a big one. This is going to generate a lot of conversation. I think it's one of the biggest matches of the first half of the season. And I'm really interested on it. Okay, moving forward now to the Champions League. We're not quite into the Champions League just yet. We're not there 100% yet. We're still on the men's side, we're in the second round right now, with 8 teams left for only 2 spots. So the current breakdown of teams and matches that are going on for the Champions League at the top half of the bracket, you have TSV Hartberg, which I'm pretty sure is Austrian, against Radniki, which is Serbian, if I'm not mistaken. Honestly, that's the least exciting of all the brackets. It really sucks how those 2 teams are playing off against each other, and then you have some bangers all the way through. Because after that, the next one, the team that's going to play them, you have Dynamo Bucuresti out of Romania. They beat ACH Ljubljana, and Ljubljana is stacked with Slovenian national team guys like Tonček Stern, Alan Pajenk, Gregor Rorpret, Jani Kovacic is their libero, and Bucuresti got the win on that one. We'll get into that in just a second. And then on the bottom half of the bracket, you have Olympiacos, which is full of like a bunch of legends. I mean, like, they're old now. It's an old team. Like Christian From, you have Alexander Atanasievich, Alexander Nedeljkovic as well too, who was the top blocker in Italy last year, led by Maximiliano Cavana, the Argentinian setter. And then for Guaguas, Las Palmas, you have Guantarena in for this match, Nicolas Bruno, the Argentinian, as well. And this one was a 3-1 decision for Las Palmas. Guaguas on the road in Olympiacos. Olympiacos was led by none other than Gord Perrin. The dude is still absolutely crushing it. He went 14 for 24 with 1 block. Antanasievich, 15 points. He was 13 for 32 with 2 blocks. Oh, Gord also had 3 aces. Let's go, my boy. Let's go. But yeah, Olympiacos is going to need to pull out something good, flying all the way to the Canary Islands. I mean, they're playing in Greece, so they don't need to get a little bit of sun, but they will be getting some sun. Guantarena led things for Guaguas with 20 points. He was 17 for 28. He had 61% in this match with 2 blocks and an ace. And then Nicolas Bruno also coming up really big for Guaguas with 16 points. He was 11 for 22 offensively. Who's setting for this team? Thomas Rousseau is on this team. Remember when he was sick for Vibo a number of years ago? Yeah, who's setting for this team? I don't even know. Miguel Angel de Amo Fernandez Echevarria. Okay. They also have Helder Spencer, the big lefty who used to play for San Jose. Very interesting. Very interesting. In the other match, oh shoot, I just canceled my. No, that's not what I want. Shoot. The last match on the bracket there, Mok Mirsa Osijic out of Croatia going up Levski Sofia, and Levski Sofia, famously enough, is basically the Nikolov's club in Sofia, and it went all the way to the limit. A 3-2 decision for Sofia, but in Croatia. 25-22 for Osijic, 25-23, 25-22 for Sofia, 27-25 for Osijic, and then 16-14 Osijic with a bunch of Croatian guys that I don't even know. led by Leo Andrich with 36 points. 36 points is huge. He was 35 for 62 in this match. Yo, just giving him some volume out there. Sofia on the other side, much more balanced offense. Julian Vajsikic, 22 points. Todor Skrimov with 19, and then Gordon Lutsakhanov. Sorry. Just a bunch of the old Bulgarian guys playing for this team. So the winner of this match will play the winner of Olympiacos and Guaguas. And I think just by those, rosters, I think that, that Olympiacos and Guaguas series should almost be the next one. The same thing with ACH Ljubljana as well. Actually, I don't think I touched on the Ljubljana stats at all. Let's see if I have them here. Ooh, I may have exited it by accident because this one actually surprised me. Given the rosters of these two teams, the fact that Bucuresti got out here with a 3-1 win, they were playing at home, but you'd potentially set up like a bit of a golden set scenario out there. Bucuresti, led by Mircea Pita, 17 for 22. He had a 77% efficiency. Yo, I might have to watch some of these games next week. This is going to be a little spicy. And on Ljubljana's side, Tonček Stern was 13 for 21. He got blocked 5 times for 15 points. And then Luka Marovt was 12 for 34 in those matches. So the end of round, I guess this is round 2 for the men, will be next week. Maybe I'll go live for some of those matches just to see how it is going. All right. Just to touch on the women's side of the Champions League. Now, this is basically they're at essentially the finals, because I don't think that there is this is the third round for the women's side. So 4 teams move on. Maritsia Plodiv out of Bulgaria. This is a team that we've seen a number of times taking on Dinamo Zagreb out of Croatia. Plodiv got a 3-0 win. Olympiacos, also on the women's side, they got a 3-0 win over Budapest out of Hungary. Benfica got a 3-1 win over Maribor out of Slovenia. And then Volero Le Canet out of France. Remember that year they had all those Russians and they were pretty good? Got a win over Kisla Voda, which I'm pretty sure is a Czech team. Now, also 3-1. So I would honestly expect all 4 of those teams to move on. Plodiv, Olympiacos, Benfica, and then Volero Le Canet to join the top teams in the Champions League for this year. And then we'll get into the real deal, and then it'll be still a few weeks until the Champions League is exciting, because unfortunately without the Russian teams, we're just lacking the depth just a little bit. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you all tuning in and listening. I promise next week will be a little bit more organized for this Friday show. But yeah, I had to turn around a quick little video. Would appreciate it if you went over and watched my top 6 Americans so far in the Lega Volley Femminili. Honestly, probably one of the best videos I've ever edited in this format. So yeah, go check it out. It's a quick one. It's like 8 minutes long. And if you like it, let me know in the chat. Give me a nice little like. And if you don't like it, let me know why in the comments. I appreciate you all. If you haven't yet, please join the Volleyball Source Discord and have a lovely weekend. I will see you on Sunday for Verona versus Lube. Okay? Oh, Kesla Voda is from Macedonia. I appreciate you. Appreciate you, Peter. Who's the Macedonian guy in the Discord who was getting upset at me, or fake upset at me because I didn't know the minute details of Macedonian volleyball terminology? It was funny. Just more of the shenanigans that you can get into in the Volleyball Source Discord. The description and the link is down in the show notes below. Thank you very much. Love you all. Have a great weekend. See you on Sunday. À la prochaine. Bye.